I'm here with Governor Ricketts at the Ag Conference here down at the Holiday Inn. Governor, good morning.
Good morning, Kyle. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for taking a few moments out of your busy schedule to join us.
My pleasure.
It's exciting to have you here, so I guess my first thought is how is the conference going so far?
You know, it's going really well. The Governor's Ag Conference is a great opportunity for producers and other people involved in agriculture from around the state to come together to talk about the important issues that impact agriculture. So we've got discussions on the Farm Bill, international trade. The theme of the conference is around branding. So how do you differentiate yourself, your products in the marketplace so you can create more demand? So those are some of the things we're doing. And so not only is it a great opportunity to come and listen to the panelists and the speakers that we have, but it's a great opportunity to share best practices and really create the networks of people who can help address the problems that we have here in the state and how we address them.
And you spoke about branding. I come to understand that you had a great kind of kickoff to the conference yesterday about that topic.
Yeah, actually we had a panel yesterday from Broken Bow talking about what they've been doing to grow their city. And Broken Bow is not on the interstate, but they've got a very dynamic community where they've got a lot of different folks who have come together as really city leaders to address some of the issues with regard to housing, workforce development, how they create economic development just in general, bringing in new businesses such as their convention center. They got a new Dairy Queen that's supposed to be opening up here in a couple of weeks, which is a good thing from my perspective because I love DQ malts. So, but I mean, again, it's just more economic development. And actually, just talk about that Dairy Queen, for example. Broken Bow's the official census has like 3,500 people, right? Dairy Queen doesn't put their stores in communities of smaller than 12,000. Yet by working together, the people of Broken Bow and Custer County were able to convince Dairy Queen to put a DQ in Broken Bow so that they could have more economic opportunities and so forth. And that really demonstrates the power of the teamwork, of the city leaders coming together to help expand their operations, create more businesses, and create more opportunities for people to come to Broken Bow.
Well, I'm glad you actually mentioned some economic opportunities. Commodity prices have been in a free fall for the past, it seems like 3-4 years. How does that impact the communities, and is that one of the things you talk about here at the conference?
Well, it certainly is, where commodity prices are, certainly impact the economy of our state. Agriculture is our number one industry. It accounts for over 20% of our state's economy and about 1 in 4 jobs. And so when we see, agriculture, commodity prices come down, it impacts everybody. In fact, if you look at farm income here in Nebraska, it's gone from about $7.5 billion in 2012 and 2013 down to $4.5 billion in 2015, so about a 39% decrease. So we see that show up in our state revenues at the state level. Our revenues are coming in below forecast, which means we've got to tighten our belts. That's certainly what our farm and ranch families are doing. And so we have to find creative ways to be able to help open up opportunities for our farmers and ranchers. It's one of the reasons why, for example, we were talking about international trade here as well. 96% of the world's consumers lie outside our borders. So going out there and expanding trade opportunities for our producers here in the state helps create markets, helps create this support for commodity prices. It's one of the ways that we can help grow our state.
Jumping off on that, actually just recently Senator Ben Sasse had the opportunity to invite some of the Nebraska agricultural leaders to Washington to talk with the new United States Trade Representative nominee. What have you gleaned from those kind of meetings? What have you learned as far as that front?
Well, obviously that was Senator Sasse, so I wasn't in those meetings, but I will tell you, talking to folks in agriculture here, we want to make sure that the Trump administration is opening up those opportunities. The Trump administration, for example, has said that we're not going to sign the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership, TPP, and they want to go directly to bilateral negotiations. And it's a different strategy, and certainly, that has a great opportunity to be successful as well. So we want to encourage the Trump administration to move quickly on establishing those bilateral trade agreements. For example, with TPP, we would have seen our tariff, there's a tariff on U.S. beef going into Japan at 38.5%. Well, TPP would have taken that 38.5% down to 9%, would have made our producers more competitive, helped to offset the strong dollar. So we know what we could have gotten in our TPP, and now it's really up to the Trump administration to be able to deliver on at least getting that or better through their bilateral trade negotiations, and that's why we really want to encourage them to pick that up and start moving on as quickly as possible.
Speaking about trade, you mentioned the TPP, but I know another big kind of thing in trade negotiations has been NAFTA. kind of the quote-unquote trade war that has been starting with Mexico. Tensions are kind of high. I know a lot of Nebraska corn goes down to Mexico. What does the outlook look for those?
Well, right now, again, we're just talking about how can we adjust the trade with NAFTA, and certainly it is something we want to pay attention to because our largest trading partners here in Nebraska are Canada and Mexico. And we want to encourage the Trump administration not to do anything to disrupt that trade relationship with Mexico. Obviously, the administration has talked a lot about looking at how we can change that relationship, but we want to remember that, if you're concerned about a trade deficit, which the Trump administration has said they are, that we actually have a trade surplus when it comes to agricultural products. So you really don't want to disrupt those relationships with countries like Mexico, where we actually are shipping out more agricultural products than we're bringing back in. So it's a process, and that's where we as a state and my administration can have an impact by continuing to communicate with the Trump administration on how important trade is to Nebraska, especially trade with countries like Mexico.
Circling back to home, you mentioned a few moments ago talking about opening up economic opportunities. One of the new things on the block is agritourism, using your farm for things that you didn't necessarily think of 2 years, 3 years, 10 years ago. How is that going in Nebraska from your perspective?
Well, tourism is the third largest industry we have here in Nebraska, so we want to make sure we expand it. In fact, right now, obviously with the cranes coming through, the crane migration, it's a great opportunity for people to try and take advantage of that and look for different ways to diversify their income. And so agritourism is that potential for our farmers and ranchers to be able to do that. And again, it gets kind of back to what you're doing in Broken Bow. If you can combine the agritourism with some of the great features that Broken Bow has with regard to the new hotels that are opening up, the new restaurants that are opening up. They've got Kincaidor, which is the new craft brewery up there. You've got a really great package to attract people to come to your city and spend a long weekend or spend a week. And that's what we really want to do, is see if we can draw in those visitors. We have another opportunity later this summer, actually, with the solar eclipse. We will be one of the best states for viewing that solar eclipse, whether it's going to be down in Beatrice at the Homestead Monument or maybe at Alliance at Carhenge. There's going to be great opportunities for us to be able to attract visitors to our state, and that's all things we can do to help promote not only tourism in Nebraska, but just what a great place Nebraska is, so that people who are looking to move here, families looking to move here, or businesses that want to expand here, will get that great experience maybe through tourism.
I'm gonna wrap things up and ask you to look into your crystal ball just a little bit. I know how difficult that can be, but the overall outlook for Nebraska agriculture over the next 5 years.
Well, the trend generally for agriculture is going to be very good, because if you look at what's happening with the world population, by 2050 there's going to be 2 billion more people on the face of the earth. And because of rising standards of living, we'll have to produce twice as much food. And there is nobody more productive than our farmers and ranchers here in Nebraska, so we're well positioned to take advantage of that. Some of the things we have to do, for example, is open up the beef trade in China. Getting back to that idea of rising standards of living, that's going to be in places like China. For example, the beef trade in China has gone from being worth about $139 million in 2010 to $2.58 billion in 2015. That really demonstrates how those Chinese consumers are becoming more middle class, they're demanding more protein. Again, that's a great opportunity for us here in Nebraska, whether it's going to be beef, pork, poultry, or what have you, to be able to meet that demand. But we've got to open up those markets in China to be able to do that. So I think long term, you're looking at very good prospects for Nebraska agriculture. As rising standards of living in other countries, people will start being asking for more protein. We can meet that need, and frankly, one of the great things we've got here in Nebraska is, just in general in the United States, is that we are world renowned in this country for having a safe food supply. That is, actually when I was in China last November, that was one of the things that we were asked about, was food safety. People know, we have a reputation in the United States for having the safest food in the world. That's why they want our products, and that's why we've got such a positive outlook long term for agriculture here in our state.
So trending up. It's always good news.
Absolutely.
Governor, thank you for taking a few moments of your time. I know you got a busy schedule, so I will let you get to it. Once again, thank you for dropping by.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Andrew, back to you.